First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my pork tenderloin into a skillet that can go in the oven. So this is a nice stainless skillet, and I can start this on the burner and then finish it off in the oven using a little bit of our favorite Jejora olive oil, which we love, and I'm going to season up my pork tenderloin with a little bit of salt and pepper. I love to use kosher salt and fresh ground black pepper. Get that going. And a real hot skillet. You want to be able to hear that sound. In fact, I'm going to turn it up a little bit. Thank you, Ann. And a little more, when you season a big piece of meat like this, you want to season it on both sides. So we're going to get that going, and I'm going to get to work on my onion and pears. Pears is one of those things that, I mean, I love pears. I really do, but we don't eat them a lot. I eat a lot of apples this time of year. Pears are very, very much fall, great fall flavors, and just something a little different. Same goes for the pork tenderloin. We do a lot of pot roasts this time of year, a lot of chicken, and every time I do pork, the family goes nuts over it. So this is something that I really like to do. Everybody in my family loves pork tenderloin. It's very, very lean, and it's just something different to do for dinner. So, and this is, like I say, it cooks up super quick. Unlike a big pork roast that takes hours and hours, really this dish is, you know, half hour or less. So I'm going to just slice up or chunk up some onion. I think that'll do it just about. That was a really big onion. And we love our ergo knives. And then I'm also going to slice up some pears. Got this pretty brown pear, but whatever, and a green pear, so you can do a mix of them, which is nice. I had a fun weekend. Well, actually, I should say Ireland had a fun weekend. And if you followed me on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, you know what I'm talking about. It was my daughter Ireland's a freshman in high school. And it was her first big high school dance. Their version of homecoming. They call it Fall Fest, but basically it's, you know, everybody gets all dressed up. She did not have a date, which was, thank goodness, I'm not ready for that yet. But she went with a group of girlfriends, and they still got their hair done and their nails done and all that kind of good stuff. And I actually had a blast getting her all ready. And then my husband, Bob, was out of town for the weekend. He had a guy's weekend, went to help a friend with his cottage up north, get the dock in and all that kind of good stuff. So Riley, my son, was home for his fall break from college for the weekend. Brought a lot of laundry home, but that's okay. That's to be expected. So he and I kind of hung out together, got Ireland where she needed to go, had a couple nice dinners together, and it was actually a really nice weekend. He texted me this morning and said, "I love you, Mom. I had a good weekend with you." He's back at school, and I said, "Study hard, finish strong. We'll see you at Thanksgiving." So anyway, that was my weekend. Just getting that tenderloin going on both sides. We'll wrap that onion up and use it another time. And then I'm going to get it to a plate and start cooking the onions and the pear. All right, so we'll finish cooking him in the oven. So now I'm going to take a little more of that olive oil. And get the onion. I tell you, they go all out for these dances these days. It wasn't really like that when I was growing up. Well, I went to an all-girls school, and we didn't even have any dances. I know, they didn't even have prom. So nowadays, boy, it's like a whole thing. I'm buckling up for these high school years. Ann says I should. Maybe later in the week we can show some pictures. Abby, can we show some pictures? Do we have time? The dress, the hair, the nails. Yay, yay, yay. And then age appropriate. I'm really big and I toe the line. I'm like, it's got to be age appropriate. The dress, the hair. I'm sticking to that. Oh, the smells. If you could smell it. Wow, wow, wow. So I just want to start the onions and the pears. And I'm going to drizzle a little honey over here, just over the top of the onions and the pears, just to kind of give it that touch of sweetness, and a little bit of Jadora balsamic vinegar. So it's going to have a little bit of sweet from the honey, a little bit of acid from the vinegar, and then some fresh thyme. So this has got all those great fall flavors. Really, really nice. If you didn't want to hassle with fresh thyme, you could certainly use some dried thyme, but take it easy on the dry thyme. It's very, very strong, so maybe a teaspoon at most. Okay, so now I'm going to get that tenderloin back in here, kind of nestle it among the pear and the onions, and it's going to go into the oven and roast at 400 to 425 until the internal temperature reaches 145 degrees. That is the key with cooking pork these days. You don't have to cook it forever and a day. Once it reaches that magic number of 145, you want to pull it out of the oven and let it rest. So at this point, and you could also just kind of tell by, whoop, I always forget that that's hot out of the oven there. Okay, so at this point I'm going to pull it off to a plate and let it rest. I'm going to take the look at these, the pears and the onions just get nice and caramelized, and I'm just going to kind of throw those all around the pork. Told you, this is going to look really fancy, but it couldn't get easier. The best part about it, one dish to wash, really. Just one big pan. And you see these great drippings in the bottom of the pan? I don't want those to go to waste. So we're actually going to take those and make a quick pan sauce. And then this is, again, something that they do at the restaurants, but a lot of times at home we skip this step. And it couldn't be easier to do. It's one of those things that kind of takes a dish to the next level, is making a quick pan sauce. So you see all these great brown bits at the bottom? I'm going to take some chicken stock, crank up our heat, and let that do its thing for a little bit. This is something that, you know, like I say, it just takes a dish to the whole next level. Pork, I get questions a lot about pork. How do you keep pork from drying out? Whenever you're grilling pork, I like to marinate it. That's a key. When you're cooking it anyway, don't overcook it. As I said, the magic number you're looking for, the pork producers just brought that number down about a year ago, 145. You can just use one of those instant read meat thermometers. It used to be we cook pork forever and ever in a day. It actually can be a little pink. And so 145 is that magic number you're looking for. And then whenever I'm serving pork, because it is so lean, I love to do some sort of a sauce with it. Really works well with some fruit sauces. And you know, this is going to have a little bit of the flavor of the pear. I do a cranberry pork. I do, you know, all different types of sauces with pork, just because it is such a lean, you know, cut of meat, or type of meat, I should say, that it, you know, just really does well with the sauce. So that's just my other little secret. Okay, so the brown bits are from the bottom of the pan. When I've got it boiling here, that chicken stock is working its magic. And then I've got a little bit of cold butter. I'm going to turn off the heat, and I'm actually going to remove it from the heat and add a tablespoon of butter. You don't have to do this, but what you're going to see this does is it just naturally thickens that sauce a little bit. Now, it's not going to be a real thick gravy. I didn't want a real thick gravy with all the great flavors we have. I wanted to keep it a little bit lighter. Just this little dab of butter. I don't know if you can see, but it just kind of tightens the sauce just a little bit. And of course, richens it too, makes it taste really good. So there you go. You've got a quick pan sauce. We'll do a little bit more thyme. Whenever you're using fresh herbs, it's really nice to kind of finish the dish with the herbs. So a little bit more thyme and we're done. I love to serve this with wild rice. It would be just the perfect thing to serve it with for fall. You could certainly do some roasted potatoes, butternut squash, something like that would be great here too. Just a little bit of thyme. And there you go. We'll take some of that sauce. Just spoon it over the pork. Clean up our plate a little bit. And this is one of those great fall dinners that, like I say, you could come home from work after a really long day and whip this together half hour or less. And it is delish. I think the family is really going to be wowed by this. And we've got a pretty white plate here, so I always like to just wipe it with a clean towel, just so it looks really pretty when you bring it to the table. So there you go, roasted pork tenderloin with pears and onions and thyme and a quick, easy pan sauce. Recipes on the website. Coming up, more fall fun. We're going to do some fall decorating inside your house and outside your house too. Make that front porch look really nice. And some of the hot items that you might want to pick up this fall too to make the inside of your house look really cool. Later, doing layered cheesecake pumpkin trifles. It sounds super gourmet, but are so easy to do. So also we're going to talk about some fun things to do this fall. So stay with us. We'll be back.